Yeah, I feel better now. All right, welcome to our very first live stream, and it's our 2018 Worst Easter Sermon of the Year Awards show. First time we've done it this way, and I'm pretty excited about that. Real quick, I want to thank everybody who supported us and helped us to get the equipment necessary to improve our video editing and things like that. And so those of you who support us in that way, thank you very much. We could not be doing this without your help and assistance. So let's talk about what we're going to do on our award show. We're going to announce the winners. And I got to tell you, this is the the most we've ever had participate in online voting. And there was a decisive winner. The best way I can put it is that we've never had this wide of a margin of winning. And so let's kind of get to it. And in order to get to it, let me kill this part of my screen really quick. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to announce, kind of work our way up from the bottom, and we'll give some samples along the way. To begin with, we'll talk about the person who came in 8th place. That would be Christian Lythe and his Synergy of Resurrection. Yeah, I was totally underwhelmed by the number of people who voted for Christian. And so if Christian's upset that he didn't win this year's 2018 Worst Easter Sermon of the Year contest, there's always next year. And so he needs to improve his game, if you would. Coming in 7th place, we actually have some video for this one, is David Crank of Faith Church St. Louis. Honorable mention here. We'll play a little bit of this video to give you a sample of what that sermon was like.
His name was Cleo. And Cleo was one of the disciples of Jesus that you don't hear much about. But he left too early. He ends up talking, and who he's talking to is Jesus, and he didn't even know it. Jesus appeared to him on this dark road in the evening, and he and this other 2 disciples, they're just talking. And Jesus says, "What are you talking about?" And they said, "We were hoping." You haven't heard? Jesus? You haven't heard about Jesus? It is Jesus. That's hilarious. He says he was supposed to resurrect on the 3rd day, and it's the 3rd day, and he is not resurrected. How many of y'all know you got to be careful because 3rd day is an actual 24-hour day, right? So you're thinking that it could happen in the morning, and it might happen in the evening. You don't know when it's going to happen, but he said it's going to happen on the 3rd day. And
then you just have to ask a question. What does he think is going to happen on the 3rd day? Because he makes it sound like I'm supposed to be expecting something on the 3rd day.
We were hoping that he would be resurrected. It's dark. It's dusky. They're on a dirt road, and Jesus is just talking to them. But he doesn't reveal himself. They don't know who it is. I got to thinking about that passage this week. How many times are you and I walking down some dusty road, hopeless? Jesus is there talking to us, and we're like, you just don't understand.
Right. It happens to me all the time. Walking the dusty roads of North Dakota here, and wouldn't you know it, while I'm walking the dusty roads, comes up Jesus and say, "Hey, what you talking about?" "Well, I was talking to myself." So... Yeah. So unfortunately for David Crank, he did not win all the beans this year, but he did get an honorable mention. 6th place, David Pinkston from Pasadena. The Resurrection shows the embrace of God. He's a newcomer, so he has some opportunities to work on his game. 5th place was Sarah Folger and her Spiritual Peekaboo sermon, which people were not all that impressed with, to be honest with you. There were people who were thinking that the yeasty sermon from the previous year was a little bit of a better sample. Now, let's talk about 4th place here. 4th place, I ended up taking the 4th place guy and making an entire YouTube video debunking some of his claims. It's the Reverend Scott McKenna of Mayfield Salisbury Church in Scotland. And McKenna, and let's listen in to some of this craziness on his part.
That evening, under the cover of darkness, Jesus appeared to his disciples. The verb used for appear is quite specific. It means an apparition, an inner vision. It is something that is experienced and seen within the consciousness, with the inner eye, in the mind and the heart. The appearance of Jesus that night in that room in Jerusalem could not have been recorded on an iPhone. There was nothing physical to see.
And yet Jesus said, "Why are you afraid? A spirit doesn't have flesh and bones as you see that I have." And they told Thomas, "Touch me, see, you can put your finger here and stuff. Apparently this all happened in the mind's eye.
The verb chosen by the writer tells us that.
Now, I actually did an entire video of that. We posted this earlier this morning. You can find it down in our channel if you'd look. And we'll just note that Scott here was like making things up because the word appear doesn't actually appear in this narrative. So I'm not sure what word he thinks when it appears means that it happens in the mind's eye rather than the physical universe. Yeah. Now, important to note here, Scott McKenna has been in our contest several years in a row, and I think this is the highest he's ever achieved as far as overall standing, but still, he didn't quite crack into the coveted spots there at the top. Next up is the person who won number three, and that would be Valley Bible Fellowship. And let's make a spiritual deal. And yeah, let's pull that up and take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do you know what time it is? It's time to make a deal on Valley Bible's very own Let's Make a Spiritual Deal. Now, please join me in welcoming your host, VBF's very own Pastor Ron Vietti.
Hey, good morning. It's afternoon. Gosh, you people love me better than the first two services. Wow, that's pretty crazy. Welcome to Let's Make a Spiritual Deal, where your deals last a lifetime and beyond. And so let's get started right now. Shane, give us our first contestant.
Our first contestant hails from a quaint little town outside of Columbus, Ohio. She enjoys long walks on the beach, dinner by candlelight, and has read the entire Harry Potter book series twice. Mary Studenhauser, come on down and let's make a big
down,
deal.
Mary. Give her a hand. Hey, Mary.
Yeah, so there you go.
Pretty excited.
Let's make a spiritual deal. So, yeah, they came in third, which is actually a respectable place for somebody who's a first-time participant in our worst Easter Sermon of the Year contest. Now, real quick, that means that there are really only two contestants left, and it is between Stephen Furtick and Ryan Meeks. And before we announce the winner, I think it'd be fun if we actually played a little bit of video so that you can actually see these two. So we've got Scott McKenna. Here we go. This is Stephen Furtick. Let's take a listen to him and part of his sermon.
The atmosphere of this text in Mark chapter 16 is an atmosphere of frustration, specifically for these women. And I wanted to call this message Hidden Figures, but I figured only one movie reference per Easter sermon. And so I had remarkable restraint not to call the sermon Hidden Figures about Mary Magdalene and Mary and Salome. Looking for a baby name, consider Salome. They bought spices. Now remember, Peter in the garden drew a sword because he had strength as long as he was in control of the outcome. But if you look on Sunday morning, Jesus has been dead now for 3 days, according to the Jewish way of counting days. And these women, they didn't draw swords in the garden. They had a different kind of strength. The
Right, yeah, they weren't the sword kind of girls, no.
Spice Girls, watch out, had the kind of quiet strength that would enable them, even in the midst of disappointment, to still go to the place where their dream died and do the best they could with what they had.
You know, every time I hear it, it just catches me off guard. Go to the place where their dream died. I thought Jesus died. Okay.
Notice who is missing in the text. It's not only Jesus who's missing in the text. He was expected to be in the grave, and he wasn't there. But where is Peter? Where is Peter waving his sword and talking so loud? Have you ever noticed how sometimes the loudest people aren't the most loyal? I noticed it at a Panthers game. There was a lady in front of me. She was so loud, she was gone in the third quarter too. Because sometimes the people who are the loudest are not the most loyal. That's
Says the man who's yelling from the stage.
dating seminar, and it's Easter. I'm giving you bonus material. Where's Peter? This is what the women are trying to figure out, because the men who should have been with them to help them move the stone away. Remember, it's much easier to roll the stone that is at the mouth of this cave, which we call a tomb, but it was more like a cave. And Mark points out a detail. He says, it was a very heavy stone, so we can't do this by ourselves. And upon realizing that we've got the spices, watch this, but we don't have the strength to roll the stone away, I think it's an indictment on the men. I think it is an indictment on the 11 disciples. I thought there were 12. Judas is dead. It's already a different thing for him. He's already gone. He couldn't hang on. He couldn't face himself after it. And Peter, well, Peter, who's going to preach in 50 days on the day of Pentecost, is so disappointed that he can't potentially show his face. Or maybe he doesn't want to venture out into the darkness and risk greater disappointment. I found out that the greater the faith, the deeper the disappointment.
You hear all those people like going, oh, wow, yeah. They're paid to do that, or they're volunteering to do that.
When you really believe in something, and this is why some of you don't expect much out of life anymore, it is your defense mechanism against disappointment. Because if you don't venture out, you don't have to be vulnerable. Hope is very vulnerable.
Right. Imagine how vulnerable those women were that morning.
Faith is very fragile. It puts you in a place where you're actually expecting something. And as Peter stood there considering the cost of discipleship in the shadow of the cross, it shot through his central nervous system that this was the end. And he's not with the women. Neither is James. Neither is John, for that matter, or Bartholomew. There were plenty of people who could have been with them, but they weren't. And so now the women, they got their spices. They're not talking much. It's not a happy processional, but they're on their way. And on their way, they realize, hey, wait a minute. When we get there, we can't do what we need to do what we came to do. Because we have spices, but we're not strong enough. Have you ever felt like there was something in your way? Now, it could be depression. It could be addiction. It could be genetics. It could be your
something in my way. Yeah, that's what we call allegorizing the stone.
history.
That was an 80s movie, wasn't it? Allegorizing the stone.
It could be your mental conditioning. Have you ever felt like there was something in your way that no matter how great or how high your faith would rise or become, there was something in your way, some stone in your way? I love what the Bible says, because the women are walking and they're worried. Well, you can't do it. Well, you can't do it either. Well, Mary, you should have. Well, don't tell me what I should have done, Salome. I'm not the one whose mom named her after a deli meat.
Now we have the women, the Spice Girls, bickering at the tomb. Who knew? It's in that fifth gospel there somewhere. So it's between Stephen Furtick and Ryan Meeks. Ryan Meeks of Eastlake Community Church up in Bothell, Washington. Let's listen in to part of Ryan Meeks' sermon.
All right. Well, happy Easter. Let's jump in. What actually happened to Jesus of Nazareth 2,000 years ago cannot be known.
No, there's no way we can know. I mean, you can't possibly trust the eyewitnesses, so we can't possibly know.
There are three positions to hold here. Yes, it did. No, it didn't. And I don't know. And if you're going to be intellectually honest with yourself, everyone has to admit the third position. We don't really know. And I think there can be some very extreme positions. Easter's such a hard holiday because I never know who's trying to figure out, are you a heretic? Yes, we've established that.
This is a true confession on his part.
Or,
Then we have a delay in the video. Bummer. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Back it up, see if that works. As it spins.
Easter's such a hard holiday because I never know who's trying to figure out, are you a heretic? Yes, we've established that. Or whatever extreme position. And one extreme position is, I know this happened. It was a literal historical thing that happened. And then
that's an extreme position. Extreme. You extremists who believe in the bodily resurrection.
This other really extreme position that says, oh, come on. No, it didn't happen. And the whole story is ridiculous. Let's move past this. And today, I want to bother both of you, if you fall into those. And I want to invite you to a higher perspective.
Right, yeah. See, those people who actually believe in the bodily resurrection, like, Peter, James, John, Bartholomew, Paul, he had an encounter with the risen Jesus on the road to Damascus. All of those guys had a low extremist view of the resurrection. And then, fast forwarding a little bit in the sermon, here's how he ended this thing off.
The kingdom of God, which is a commonwealth of familial love for all of earth's creatures, human and non-human, it is up to us to live that kingdom into reality. The disciples were in shock and anger and fear. A boulder had been rolled across a just world that they believed was just at hand. It was coming soon.
A boulder had been rolled across a just world. No, I'm pretty sure the stone was rolled over a tomb and there was a corpse in there.
And it seemed like that world was never going to come now.
No.
And it won't.
Yeah.
Until we build it.
We have to build the world of social justice.
It's up to us. Guys, it's been 2,000 years.
Yeah.
Every generation is like, we're in the end times. Every generation that's ever said that has been wrong. Can we at least, some of you are like, he's definitely coming back. Fine. How about we clean up the joint anyway? And then when he comes back, we're like, we cleaned it. That's what I'm saying. I don't care what you believe. Believe whatever you want. The question is, what are your beliefs motivating in you? What grows out of those beliefs? If it isn't love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control, then bullshit on it, on those beliefs. They're not.
Yeah, and he said that in an Easter sermon. And yeah, no, we didn't bleep it out.
Actually shaping the world in a better way. And we're not that kind of church. So you guys are like, all right. I need some hankies, or whatever. Let me read this quote. Robert Swan says this: the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it.
Someone like Jesus, big threat to the planet there.
This Easter, I beg you, let go of the fantasy that someone else is coming to rescue us.
It's a fantasy like Jesus is coming to rescue us. Wow.
Follow Gandhi and be the change. Follow Jesus and...
Follow Gandhi. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Imagine a Sunday morning hearing somebody say, forget that Jesus guy. We don't know if he rose from the dead. The guy you really need to follow is Gandhi. Have you asked Gandhi into your heart?
Be the light of the world that he says you are. Having faith isn't about believe the preposterous. That's what...
Yeah, the preposterous, like Jesus rose bodily from the grave.
Is faith. That's insane. Faith is embodied trust in a better world that we might not actually see come to fruition. That's faith. In spite of the uphill climb, I will work for that reality. Susan B. Anthony never saw women get the vote. Frederick Douglass never met the Reverend Dr. King. We don't have faith in things that are easy to see. We serve the ages because we believe a better world is worth working for. That's why we do it. So we just keep fighting, we just keep walking, we just keep hoping, we just keep breathing, and we work for a better world.
Yeah, this is the Dory approach to the resurrection. Just keep swimming.
It doesn't matter what you believe about the resurrection. Pick your favorite. And Jesus isn't coming back. But Christ returns every time. In the human heart, you have the choice to choose love or the regressive alternative that is always rooted in fear, by the way.
Right. So it doesn't matter what you believe about the resurrection. Oh, and Jesus isn't coming back. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the worst sermons I've ever heard in my life, calling itself an Easter sermon. And so now, without any further ado, we're going to announce who the winner of this year's 2018 Worst Easter Sermon of the Year contest. And again, it's between Stephen Furtick and Ryan Meeks. I don't have any drum roll. Well, I'll pound my desk. And the winner is Ryan Meeks. There we go. That's right. He will be getting a copy of Michael Horton's book, Christless Christianity. We'll be sending him 30 pieces of silver to let him know that he's also a Judas and things of that particular nature, which is what we do every year. So I'd like to thank you all for participating. And I can actually say this is the first year that I've really actually picked the winner. It's like every year, I when the one I think is going to win never wins. This one clearly was the worst Easter sermon I've ever heard in my life, and I think it's going to be tough to top that over the years. But then again, with the state of the church completely sliding into apostasy and oblivion, you never know what's up ahead. So would like to thank you all again for your participation. Thank you all for your support for fighting for the faith, and if you would like to support us, all the information on how to support us is on our website, fightingforthefaith.com, and join our crew and things like that. And, of course, share our videos and our podcast with other people so that it can be a resource to help them. So until next time, may God richly bless you in the grace and mercy won by Jesus Christ and his vicarious death on the cross for all of your sins. Bye-bye.